Imagine for a moment that you are standing in your driveway, looking at the home you have spent decades paying for. You think about your children and your grandchildren, and you feel a sense of pride knowing that one day this property will be theirs. But what if I told you that a silent thief has been living in your house with you this entire time? What if I told you that while you were working late shifts and skipping vacations to save for their future, an invisible tax was slowly draining $250,000 away from your family's legacy? This thief does not wear a mask, and it does not break in through the window at night. It sits quietly in a computer server in a corporate office, represented by a simple 3-digit number attached to your name. Most people believe their credit score is just a measure of how well they pay their bills. They think it is a reflection of their moral character or their financial responsibility. But that is perhaps the greatest lie ever told in the modern American economy. Your credit score is not a measure of your goodness or your worth as a human being. It is a measure of how much profit the banking cartel can extract from your existence. And in the high-interest environment of late 2025, understanding this game is no longer optional. If you are currently in your 50s or 60s, you are at a crossroads where every single percentage point matters more than ever before. Today, we are going to look past the surface and expose the mechanical ruthlessness of the credit system. We are going to reveal why you might be paying a ghetto tax on your very lifestyle, even if you have never missed a payment in your life. More importantly, we are going to discuss how you can reclaim that lost wealth and ensure it stays where it belongs, in the hands of your grandchildren. Let us start with a hard truth that most financial advisors are too polite to tell you. The typical American household headed by someone over age 62 has a median retirement savings of about $185,000. On paper, that sounds like a decent start. But when you factor in the cost of healthcare and the weight of inflation, that number begins to look dangerously small. Now imagine if that same household had an extra $250,000 sitting in an investment account. That is not a fantasy number or a lottery win. That is the actual amount of money that a fair credit score of 640 costs you compared to a gold-plated score of 760. We are talking about $250,000 that was handed over to banks, insurance companies, and landlords for the exact same life your neighbor is living. When you have a lower credit score, the bank does not usually deny you the loan for a house or a car. Denying you the loan would mean they make $0 from you. Instead, they charge you a risk premium. They tell you that because your score is a bit lower, your interest rate will be just 1 or 2% higher. In a brochure, 1.5% sounds like pennies. It sounds like a trivial amount that you can handle. But when you run the numbers over a 30-year mortgage on a $400,000 home, that tiny gap explodes. That 1.5% difference adds up to roughly $120,000 in extra interest payments alone. But the tragedy does not stop at the interest you paid. The true cost is the opportunity cost of what that money could have become. If you had taken that extra interest money and invested it in a simple S&P 500 index fund, it would have compounded into nearly $500,000 over 3 decades. This is the invisible inheritance of the middle class that is being burned at the altar of the FICO algorithm every single day. You are buying the same drywall, the same roof, and the same patch of grass as the man next door, but you are paying twice for it, and this algorithm is surprisingly young. The FICO score, as we know it, was only introduced in 1989. Before that, a human being at a local bank looked you in the eye and evaluated your character. Today, you are judged by a machine that does not care about your military service, your dedication to your family, or the fact that you survived a medical emergency. The new system traded human bias for algorithmic ruthlessness. It created a modern caste system where the prime borrowers get access to free money and the subprime borrowers pay a surcharge on their very existence. And this tax goes far beyond your mortgage. It has mutated into what experts call a reputation score. In most states across America, your auto insurance company uses your credit score to decide how much you pay every month. They claim that if your credit score is lower, you are statistically more likely to get into a car accident. Think about how absurd that is for a moment. You could have a perfect driving record for 40 years without a single ticket or a scratch on your bumper. You could drive like a grandmother on a Sunday morning. But if your credit score dips because you co-signed a loan for a family member or had a rough patch, your car insurance premium can double. Studies have shown that a safe driver with a clean record but poor credit often pays more than a drunk driver with perfect credit. The system trusts a person with a history of driving under the influence, but an 800 credit score more than it trusts you. This is the poverty premium in action, and it hits the hardest when you are on a fixed income or approaching retirement. Landlords use it, utility companies use it to demand massive deposits, and even some employers check it before they will hire you for a part-time job to stay active. The most twisted part of this entire game is how the score is actually calculated. It does not measure your wealth or how much money you have in the bank. You could have $10 million in cash sitting in a safe, but if you have no debt and no active loans, the algorithm sees you as a ghost. To the banking system, you are unscorable, which is often treated the same as having bad credit. Conversely, you could be living paycheck to paycheck and drowning in minimum payments. But as long as you keep borrowing and paying interest, the system labels you a superstar. The score rewards the cycle of debt. It loves people who are just profitable enough to keep paying, but never wealthy enough to leave the game. Have you ever noticed that your score drops 20 points right after you pay off a car loan or a mortgage? That is the system telling you the quiet part out loud. They liked you better when you were paying them interest every month. When you stop being a source of revenue for the banks, your reputation in their eyes goes down. It is a loyalty program for debt slaves, and the entrance fee is your retirement fund. But as a wise person once said, you cannot win a game if you do not understand the rules. And the rules are designed to extract wealth from the disorganized. So how do we get organized and take that $250,000 back for your family? First, we must understand the math of optics. 30% of your credit score is determined by your credit utilization ratio. This is simply the amount of credit you are using compared to the total limits the banks have given you. If you have a credit card with a $1,000 limit and you spend $500, the algorithm smells fear and thinks you are desperate. But if you call the bank and ask them to raise your limit to $10,000, while you still only spend that same $500, your score will soar. You did not pay off a single dime of debt. You simply changed the denominator of the equation. The trick is to look like you have access to a fortune, but have absolutely zero desire to spend it. For those of you looking to protect your children and grandchildren from this trap, there is a powerful tool known as the Authorized User Hack. This is how wealthy families pass on good credit like a genetic trait. A parent with a perfect payment history can add their teenage child as an authorized user on an old credit card. The child does not even need to have the physical card or spend a penny. But the entire history of that account, decades of on-time payments, is instantly copied onto the child's credit report. That young person can start their adult life with a 780 credit score before they even have their first job. They walk into the world and get 0% interest rates, while the child of a disorganized family starts at 0 and gets hit with predatory loans. This is how we build a bridge over the poverty gap. Now, I want to address those of you who follow the advice of experts who say that all debt is bad and you should only use cash. There is a certain purity in that philosophy, and if you can buy your home and your cars in full with cash, you should absolutely do so and opt out of the matrix. But for 99% of Americans, living with a 0 credit score is like playing a video game on the hardest possible setting for no reason. You will pay higher deposits for your cell phone, higher premiums for your insurance, and you will face friction at every turn. The pragmatic move is not to boycott the system, but to dominate it. Treat your credit score like an annoying game that you have to speedrun so you can get the rewards and move on with your real life. As we move through 2025, the banks are becoming more aggressive with their algorithms. They are looking for any excuse to raise your rates or lower your limits. That is why you must protect your history viciously. Set every single bill to automatic payment for at least the minimum amount. This is your safety net to ensure a simple mistake or a forgotten envelope does not cost you 7 years of reputation damage. Check your credit report at least once a quarter, because statistics show that 1 in 5 reports contains a significant error. If there is a misspelled name or an incorrect date, dispute it immediately. The law says that if the Bureau cannot verify the accuracy of the data within 30 days, they must delete it. This is a legal loophole that the wealthy use every day, and you should use it too. The goal here is not to impress the banks or to feel good about a number on a screen. The goal is to stop the bleeding. Every dollar you save on interest is a dollar that can stay in your 401k or your retirement account. Every percentage point you shave off a loan is a brick in the wall of your financial freedom. We are talking about $250,000 over your lifetime. That is the difference between a retirement spent worrying about every grocery bill and a retirement spent traveling and helping your family. The banks are banking on your ignorance. They are counting on you being too tired or too busy to look at the amortization schedule. They want you to accept the 12% loan because you think you do not deserve better. But you do deserve better. You have worked hard, you have contributed to society, and you have earned the right to keep the wealth you have created. Do not let a secret 3-digit number determine your value as a human being. Understand the algorithm, manipulate the optics, and take back the legacy that belongs to your children. Financial independence is not just about how much you earn. It is about how much you refuse to let them take from you. Thank you for listening. And remember, the best time to start protecting your legacy was 20 years ago, but the second best time is today. Keep your head up, stay organized, and I will see you in the next one.